The wind had been whispering warnings since dawn, but Lila, obedient, quiet Lila, had pushed them aside in her determination to be useful. Winters in Pine Hollow were unforgiving, and because she lived under her uncle's roof, every misstep was counted against her, every chore scrutinized. When he told her to gather extra firewood before the storm worsened, she nodded and went, even though the sky was already the color of steel and the air held that sharp, metallic chill that meant snow was near. She ventured farther than she should have, following tracks made days earlier, not realizing how quickly the weather could change. The first flakes came slowly, drifting lazily through the trees. Then the wind shifted, and the world erupted into a frenzy of white. Snow slammed sideways into her face, stinging like sand, and within minutes the trail vanished beneath her feet. She wrapped her arms around herself and turned in a slow circle, trying to find anything familiar, the dark stump shaped like a crooked hat, the fallen pine that lay like a bridge over the ground. But everything blurred. The woods she'd known since childhood had become a shifting, living creature of white and shadow. "Please," she whispered, though she wasn't sure who she was pleading with. Her breath fogged in front of her, then whipped away. Her boots sank deeper with each step, wet cold seeping through the seams. Her fingers went numb first, then her toes, then her lips. Panic curled in her chest, growing heavier with each moment. She tried calling for help, but the wind swallowed her voice instantly. She kept walking, she didn't know how long, until her legs trembled and the world tilted. Her vision flickered, blinking between white and dark, white and dark. She stumbled, fell forward onto her hands, and stayed there because somehow she couldn't make her body rise again. The snow felt soft beneath her cheek, strangely comforting. Her eyelids grew heavy. Just a moment of rest, she told herself. A sound cut through the storm, footsteps, heavy and purposeful. She thought at first it was her mind tricking her in the final moments before everything slipped away. But then she felt hands, strong, warm, roughened by work, lifting her from the snow. "Hey, hey, stay with me," a deep voice urged. She tried to open her eyes, but the world was spinning. She felt her body carried against a broad chest, heat radiating through layers of wool and leather. A gloved hand shielded her face from the wind as the man trudged forward. "You're frozen solid," he murmured, breath warm above her ear. "I've got you," and that was the last thing she remembered. Dash dash dash. When she awoke, the light was dim and golden, flickering from a hearth fire that danced across rough wooden beams. She lay beneath heavy blankets, thick wool and fur, her body cocooned in warmth so complete it felt unreal. For a moment she wondered if she had died and awakened somewhere soft and safe, a place far gentler than the life she knew. Then she saw him. He was crouched beside her, sleeves rolled to his elbows, dark hair falling slightly over his brow. His clothes were simple, flannel shirt, patched vest, worn trousers, but he carried himself with a quiet strength that drew her eyes. He rubbed her hands gently between his own, trying to coax warmth back into her skin. "You're awake," he said, voice rough from disuse. Lila tried to sit up, but dizziness washed through her. He steadied her with a hand behind her back, careful but firm. "Easy, your body's still fighting the cold." "Where?" Her voice cracked, the word barely forming. He lifted a cup to her lips. "Drink. Water first." She obeyed, the cool liquid soothing her throat. "You're in my cabin," he explained. "Found you near the ridge. Storm almost buried you." Her eyes drifted around the small room. Shelves lined with jars and tools, a table stacked with pelts, a narrow bed tucked beside the wall where she lay. Everything smelled of pine, smoke, and something faintly earthy, like cedar in wild places untouched by town life. "You carried me here," she whispered. "Yes." He didn't say it like a boast, but a fact. Anyone would have. She wasn't so sure. Her uncle had lectured her countless times about being a burden. Townsfolk rarely spared kindness for someone like her. Someone quiet, someone without a family of her own, someone who worked hard but never quite earned affection. "You saved my life," she said softly. He looked away, almost uncomfortable. "Storm was fierce. I did what I could." You're Cole Hawkins, aren't you?" she asked. His jaw tightened slightly. "So they say." Rumors swirled around his name. A man who once had a ranch, a family, a life, until tragedy hollowed him out and drove him into the wilderness. A man who avoided town, who lived with only the forest for company. But looking at him now, the careful way he handled her, the quiet worry in his eyes, she saw none of the coldness people whispered about. Before she could say more, the sound of boots thudding against wood cut sharply through the stillness. Cole's eyes narrowed. He rose. "Stay here." He opened the door, and a blast of winter air burst into the cabin. 3 men stood outside, snow clinging to their coats. Her uncle was at the front, face red, breath steaming with fury. Behind him stood the town's preacher and a neighbor. Lila's heart dropped. There she is, her uncle growled when he spotted her inside, wrapped in blankets on Cole's bed. In a man's cabin, all night. Cole blocked the doorway. She was dying. I brought her in or she wouldn't be standing now. Her uncle shoved forward. You expect me to believe nothing happened? Cole's gaze sharpened. I'm not explaining myself to you. I saved her. That's all. But the other men had already made their judgment. In their eyes, her virtue was compromised simply by being here. Her voice, her innocence, her truth, none of it mattered. The rules were older than she was, and far less forgiving. She'll marry you, her uncle snapped. Today, before word spreads. Lila felt the room sway. Uncle, please, nothing happened. I didn't choose. Enough, he barked. You will not bring shame to my house. Shame, that word again, as if her survival had dirtied her. Cole stood rigid, expression unreadable, eyes flicking between Lila and the men. She saw conflict flash across his face, duty, anger, maybe even fear of burdening her with a life she hadn't asked for. He spoke slowly. You're forcing this. Her uncle sneered. A decent man would do what's right. Lila's breath caught as Cole finally looked at her fully, really looked at her, as though trying to weigh the weight of his decision against the life she might lose because of it. I never meant to put you in this, he said quietly. She swallowed hard, pulse echoing in her ears. And outside, the snow kept falling, soft and relentless, sealing her fate with every flake.